They say power can buy silence. But when she placed that thick envelope on the table in front of me, she had no idea I was sitting on a vault of secrets that could blow apart the very life she was desperately trying to protect. The wife of the most powerful man in Denver's real estate empire thought she could make me disappear with cash. She was wrong. Dead wrong. My name is Elena Ward, and for the past 3 years, I've been the internal communications manager at Silvercrest Holdings, one of Denver's most prestigious real estate development firms. At 32, I should have been climbing the corporate ladder with confidence, but instead, I found myself trapped in a glass box, visible to everyone, yet hitting invisible walls every time I tried to advance. The Silvercrest Tower stood like a monument to ambition in downtown Denver, its gleaming windows reflecting the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Every morning, I'd ride the elevator to the 14th floor, coffee in hand, watching the city shrink beneath me. The office was a study in modern corporate aesthetics, open floor plans that promised transparency while hiding the darkest secrets. Conference rooms named after Colorado peaks, where deals worth millions were sealed with handshakes and hidden clauses. My desk sat in the communications department, strategically positioned between marketing and executive operations. It was the perfect vantage point to observe the corporate theater that unfolded daily. I watched junior associates work 18-hour days, their eyes bloodshot from staring at spreadsheets, hoping for a nod of approval from executives who couldn't remember their names. I saw senior managers take credit for their subordinates' ideas in boardroom presentations, their confident voices drowning out the truth. But I was good at my job. Too good, perhaps. I crafted the narratives that made Silvercrest shine in the public eye, wrote the speeches that made our CEO, Richard Holt, sound like a visionary rather than the ruthless businessman he truly was. I polished our image until it gleamed as bright as our building's facade. My personal life was another story entirely. The long hours had cost me a relationship with David, who grew tired of canceled dinner plans and weekend work emergencies. "You're married to that company," he'd said the night he left, and maybe he was right. My studio apartment in Capitol Hill felt more like a hotel room than a home, a place to sleep between office hours, nothing more. It was during a routine review of the quarterly reports that I first noticed something off. I was preparing materials for the annual charity gala, Silvercrest's crown jewel event where Denver's elite gathered to congratulate themselves on their generosity. The Holt Foundation, our charitable arm run by Miranda Holt herself, was supposed to have distributed $2 million to local housing initiatives. But the numbers didn't add up. At first, I thought it was a clerical error. A misplaced decimal, perhaps, or funds held in escrow. But as I dug deeper into the financial documents that crossed my desk, invoices for the gala, vendor payments, donation records, a pattern emerged. Money was flowing into the foundation, but only a fraction was reaching the intended recipients. The rest seemed to vanish into a maze of subsidiary accounts and consultant fees. I started staying later, accessing files I technically had clearance for but had never bothered to examine. The office took on a different character after dark. The ambient noise of productivity faded to the hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of janitors' carts. In that silence, I discovered that Silvercrest Holdings was built on more than just concrete and steel. It was built on lies. The pressure at Silvercrest was suffocating. We were expected to be soldiers in Richard Holt's army, never questioning, always executing. I'd seen colleagues fired for asking the wrong questions, their careers destroyed with a few well-placed phone calls. The corporate culture wasn't just competitive, it was carnivorous. And I was beginning to realize I might be the next meal. But I couldn't let it go. Maybe it was my Midwest upbringing, that stubborn sense of right and wrong my mother had instilled in me before she passed. Or maybe I was just tired of being another cog in a machine that ground people into dust. Whatever the reason, I started documenting everything. Screenshots saved to encrypted drives, photos taken with my personal phone, copies of documents that proved the charity was nothing more than a well-dressed fraud. I knew I was playing with fire, but I didn't yet know that the flames were about to be fanned by the most dangerous woman in Denver, Miranda Holt herself. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks after I'd started collecting evidence. My desk phone rang with an internal number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was cultured, measured, with the kind of polish that only old money could buy. Elena, this is Miranda Holt. I'd like to discuss something with you. Are you free this evening? My blood chilled. In 3 years at Silvercrest, Miranda had never spoken to me directly. She was the queen of Denver's social scene, charity galas, museum boards, country club committees. Her photograph graced society pages, always perfectly coiffed, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. Of course, Mrs. Holt. I managed, my mouth suddenly dry. Wonderful. Let's meet at the Amber Room at 6. I believe we have much to discuss. The Amber Room wasn't just upscale, it was where Denver's elite conducted their real business, away from prying eyes and recording devices. The kind of place where a cocktail cost more than most people's daily wages and discretion was included in the bill. I arrived 5 minutes early, wearing my best blazer, the one I saved for important presentations. Miranda was already there, seated in a private booth tucked into the corner, her presence commanding even in the dim lighting. She wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her blonde hair pulled back in an elegant chignon. Diamond earrings caught the light as she turned to acknowledge me. Elena, please sit. She gestured to the chair across from her, her manicured nails blood-red against the white tablecloth. I've ordered us some wine. The Bordeaux here is exceptional. I sat, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. The leather chair seemed to swallow me whole. You've been with Silvercrest for 3 years now, she began, swirling her wine glass with practiced ease. Richard speaks highly of your work. You have a gift for managing narratives. Thank you, I said carefully, watching her face for any tell. She smiled, the kind of smile a cat might give a mouse. I understand you've been working late recently. Very dedicated, perhaps too dedicated. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my expression neutral. The charity gala requires extensive preparation. Indeed. She reached into her designer handbag, Hermes, naturally, and pulled out a thick manila envelope. She placed it on the table between us, her fingers lingering on it for a moment. Sometimes, Elena, in our enthusiasm to do good work, we might stumble upon things that seem concerning, things that might be misinterpreted without proper context. The envelope sat there like a loaded gun. I want you to know, she continued, her voice dropping to an intimate whisper, that the Holt Foundation operates in complex ways. International charity work requires certain flexibilities that might seem unusual to someone unfamiliar with high-level philanthropy. She pushed the envelope toward me. This is a consultation fee. For your discretion and your understanding that some matters are best left to those with more experience in these delicate areas. I didn't touch the envelope. Mrs. Holt, I'm not sure what you're implying. Her smile tightened. I'm not implying anything, dear. I'm simply recognizing that you're a smart woman who understands that curiosity can be expensive. This is $50,000. Cash. Untraceable. Consider it a bonus for your excellent work and your continued loyalty to Silvercrest. The number hung in the air. $50,000. More than my student loans, enough to start fresh somewhere else. And if I continue to be curious, I asked, surprising myself with my boldness. Miranda's facade cracked slightly, a flash of something dangerous in her eyes. Then you'd be making a mistake. You see, Elena, Denver is a smaller city than you might think. People talk. Reputations are fragile things, especially for young women trying to build careers. One word from me, and you wouldn't just lose your job at Silvercrest, you'd find every door in this city closed to you. She stood, smoothing her skirt with deliberate calm. Take the weekend to think about it. I trust you'll make the right decision. After all, you strike me as someone who values her future. She left me sitting there with the envelope and 2 untouched glasses of wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. My hands trembled as I reached for the envelope, feeling its weight. Inside, I could see the crisp $100 bills, more money than I'd ever held at once. But all I could think about was the threat beneath her cultured words. Miranda Holt had just shown me exactly who she was, someone who believed everything and everyone had a price. She thought she could buy my silence like she'd probably bought dozens of others. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I left the envelope on the table. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I transformed my apartment into a war room. Every surface was covered with printed documents, financial records, and photographs I'd been collecting. If Miranda thought she could intimidate me into silence, she'd just given me the ammunition I needed to fight back. The next morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual, badge scanning at 6:47 a.m. The security guard raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I had work to do, and it had to be done carefully. One wrong move and I'd be escorted out before lunch. I started with the foundation's vendor contracts, using my legitimate access to pull files for the gala preparation, every invoice, every payment authorization, every charity recipient letter. I documented it all. My personal phone became my most valuable tool. Its camera silently capturing evidence while my computer screen showed innocent spreadsheets whenever someone walked by. The pattern was elegant in its simplicity. The Holt Foundation would announce a $2 million initiative for affordable housing. The press release would go out, I'd written most of them myself, with beautiful photos of Miranda at construction sites, her designer heels carefully navigating the dirt. But the money would fragment. $1 million would go to a consulting firm in Delaware, another $500,000 to a logistics company registered in Nevada. By the time actual funds reached the housing projects, barely $300,000 remained. I discovered shell companies layered upon shell companies, all leading back to accounts controlled by Miranda and her inner circle. But that wasn't even the worst part. Late Thursday evening, I found something that made my blood run cold. Buried in an old folder from 2019 was correspondence about a previous foundation initiative in Miami. The emails were carefully worded, but the implications were clear. Miranda hadn't just been skimming money, she'd been using the foundation for money laundering, cleaning cash for people whose names I recognized from federal investigation headlines. The danger of what I was doing hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just corporate fraud anymore. This was criminal conspiracy at a level that destroyed lives or ended them. Friday morning, I noticed the surveillance had started. A black Audi appeared wherever I went. The same man in a gray suit seemed to be everywhere: the coffee shop, the subway platform, the lobby of my building. They weren't trying to hide it. They wanted me to know I was being watched. My colleague, Janet, pulled me aside at lunch. "Elena, be careful," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "I heard Miranda's assistant asking about you, about your background, your family, your finances. That's never good." The intimidation escalated. That afternoon, I returned to my desk to find my computer logged into sites I'd never visited: gambling pages, escort services, cryptocurrency exchanges. Someone was building a digital trail, preparing to destroy my credibility if needed. I took photos of everything before clearing the history. Monday brought a new level of hostility. Rumors started circulating that I'd been inappropriate with a married executive, completely fabricated. But the whispers followed me through the halls. My supervisor, Tom, called me into his office. "Elena, I've been asked to review your performance," he said, unable to meet my eyes. "There are concerns about your focus." "This is about Miranda Holt, isn't it?" I said quietly. His face went pale. "I don't know what you mean. Just keep your head down, okay? Please." But I couldn't stop. That evening, working from home on my personal laptop, I found the smoking gun. Financial records from 15 years ago. Before Miranda married Richard, when she went by Miranda Castellano, she'd been involved in a charity fraud case in Miami, the one I'd seen referenced in those old emails. Her business partner, a man named Victor Reeves, had taken the fall and gone to prison. But there was more. Victor had been released 2 years ago and had died in a boating accident just 3 weeks later. The timing was too convenient. I cross-referenced news articles, court documents, obituaries. Miranda hadn't just stolen money, she'd destroyed lives to cover her tracks. and now she was trying to do the same to me. Wednesday night, I worked until 3 a.m., creating encrypted backups of everything. I used throwaway email accounts, cloud storage services registered under false names, USB drives hidden in places no one would think to look. If something happened to me, the evidence would survive. The pressure was affecting me physically. I'd lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks, surviving on coffee and adrenaline. Dark circles had become permanent fixtures under my eyes. But every time I thought about stopping, I remembered the families who'd been promised affordable housing and received nothing. I thought about Victor Reeves, who'd died for knowing too much. By the end of the 3rd week, I had everything: financial records, emails, shell company registrations, even a recorded phone call where Miranda explicitly discussed moving sensitive funds through the foundation. It was enough to destroy her, to bring down the entire corrupt network she'd built. But I knew I couldn't just hand it over to authorities. Miranda had connections everywhere: the DA's office, the police, the FBI field office. I needed to be smarter. That's when I decided to set a trap. The confrontation came at the worst possible moment: the annual Silvercrest Investor Gala. I was standing near the bar, nursing a glass of champagne I couldn't taste, when Miranda materialized beside me like an elegant predator. The ballroom at the Four Seasons was packed with Denver's business elite, everyone in their finest evening wear, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in their midst. "Elena," she purred, her voice carrying just enough edge that nearby conversations quieted. "You look tired, dear. Perhaps you've been working too hard." She wore a midnight blue gown that shimmered under the chandeliers, diamonds at her throat worth more than most people's homes. But I saw past the glamour now. I saw the ruthlessness underneath. "I'm fine, Mrs. Holt, just dedicated to my work." "Dedication is admirable," she said, stepping closer, her perfume, something French and suffocating, invading my space. "But obsession? That can be dangerous. You know what they say about curiosity and cats." A server passed with a tray of canapés. Miranda selected one delicately, her eyes never leaving mine. Around us, the party continued: laughter, clinking glasses, a jazz quartet playing softly. But our corner felt frozen in menace. "I heard you've been asking questions about the foundation," she continued, her voice dropping so only I could hear. "Making certain inquiries that could be misinterpreted. That would be unfortunate, especially given your recent browsing history at work. Gambling debts can make people desperate, can't they?" My stomach turned. She was telegraphing exactly how she'd destroy me if I didn't comply. "I don't have any gambling debts," I said steadily. "Not yet." Her smile was razor sharp. "But digital footprints are so easy to create. A few clicks here, a few transactions there. Did you know your credit card was used at an online casino last Tuesday? Oh, you didn't make that purchase? How strange. These identity theft cases can take years to resolve." Richard Holt appeared then, sliding an arm around his wife's waist. The CEO of Silvercrest was everything you'd expect: silver-haired, commanding, with the kind of presence that made boards of directors nervous. But next to Miranda, he seemed almost secondary. "Elena," he nodded. "Miranda tells me you've been invaluable in preparing for tonight." "She's been very thorough," Miranda said, her emphasis on the word making it sound like a threat. "Perhaps too thorough. We were just discussing how sometimes less is more." A photographer approached, asking for a photo of the power couple. As they turned to pose, Miranda whispered in my ear, "Monday morning, you'll submit your resignation. You'll cite personal reasons. In return, that envelope from last week will be waiting in your apartment, plus another $50,000 for your relocation expenses. Leave Denver, Elena. Tonight." The flash went off, capturing their perfect smiles while I stood frozen. The harassment intensified over the next 3 days. My apartment was broken into while I was at work. Nothing stolen, but everything slightly moved, a message that they could reach me anywhere. My mother in Ohio received a call about my mental health struggles. My credit cards were mysteriously declined. My car tires were slashed in the Silvercrest parking garage. Security cameras conveniently malfunctioning during that time window. Friday afternoon. Human Resources called me in. The director, Paula Brennan, looked uncomfortable as she slid a document across the desk. There have been serious allegations about your conduct, she said, not meeting my eyes. Inappropriate use of company resources, possible theft of proprietary information, and… She paused. Concerns about your psychological fitness for your position. The document was a suspension notice, effective immediately, pending investigation. This is retaliation, I said. You know that, don't you? Paula's hands trembled slightly. I'm just following protocol. You have the weekend to consider a voluntary resignation. It would be cleaner for everyone. I stood to leave, then turned back. Paula, how long have you known about the foundation? Her face went white. I don't know what you mean. How many others has Miranda silenced? How many people has she destroyed while you sat here, following protocol? Please leave, Elena. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. As I was marched through the office carrying a cardboard box of my possessions, my colleagues averted their eyes. Only Janet met my gaze, mouthing, "I'm sorry," before looking away. The security guard stood too close in the elevator, making sure I understood I was now an enemy in the building where I'd given 3 years of my life. In the parking garage, Miranda was waiting by my vandalized car, examining her manicure with practiced indifference. This is your last warning, she said conversationally. I've been patient, Elena, more patient than you deserve. But my patience has limits. You have 48 hours to leave Denver. After that, well, did you know that depression leading to suicide is tragically common among young professionals? The pressure, the isolation, the mounting debts from identity theft? She stepped closer, and for the first time, I saw the true darkness in her eyes. I've buried problems bigger than you, dear. Don't test me. She walked away, her heels clicking against the concrete like a countdown clock. I stood there, holding my pathetic box of belongings, my slashed tires a monument to my powerlessness. Or so she thought. What Miranda didn't know is that I'd been recording our entire conversation on my phone. What she didn't know is that I'd already found Victor Reeves's daughter, who had her own evidence about her father's death. What she didn't know was that her perfect trap was about to become mine. The war was no longer cold. It was time to fight back. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a faded newspaper archive from the Miami Herald, dated 15 years ago. I'd been digging for weeks into Miranda's past, back when she was Miranda Castellano, a rising star in South Florida's charity circuit. The microfiche at Denver Public Library yielded what the sanitized internet couldn't: raw, unedited coverage of the scandal that should have ended her career. The headline read, "Charity Executive Dies in Federal Custody Before Trial." The executive was Victor Reeves, Miranda's business partner in a foundation called Hearts for Homes. They'd raised $12 million for hurricane relief. Less than $1 million ever reached victims. But here's what made my blood run cold. The article mentioned a third partner, someone named Anthony Castellano, Miranda's brother. He'd disappeared 2 days before the FBI raids, along with $8 million. The money was never recovered. Anthony was never found. I tracked down Victor's daughter, Sophia Reeves, through LinkedIn. She was a nurse in Portland now, had changed her last name to her mother's maiden name, Porter. When I called, she almost hung up immediately. I don't talk about my father, she said flatly. What if I told you Miranda Holt was doing the same thing that destroyed your father? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd disconnected. Then, Miranda Castellano is Miranda Holt, the Denver socialite? Yes. Jesus Christ, I'll call you back. She did, from a different number, an hour later. My father wasn't supposed to die in custody, Sophia said, her voice tight with old anger. He was going to testify, had a deal with the prosecutors, he had recordings, documents, proof that Miranda and Anthony orchestrated everything. Then he had an allergic reaction to medication he'd never been prescribed. The investigation died with him. Do you still have any of his evidence? I have everything. I've kept it for 15 years, waiting for someone to care. Sophia sent me scanned documents that night, financial records, emails, and most damning, a recorded conversation between Miranda and her brother planning Victor's setup. Miranda's voice was younger, but unmistakable. Victor's weak. When the FBI comes, he'll break. We need him to be the only one they look at. But the real revelation was Anthony Castellano. He hadn't disappeared, he'd been reinvented. Cross-referencing incorporation documents, I found him. He was now Anthony Castle, running a consulting firm in Denver that received regular payments from the Holt Foundation. Miranda had been funneling money to her brother for 15 years. Payment for his silence about their shared crimes. I needed more than old evidence, though. I needed proof of current criminal activity. That's when I remembered something Miranda had said during our parking garage confrontation. I've buried problems bigger than you. Buried, past tense, plural. I searched death records in Colorado for the past 5 years, cross-referencing with people who'd had business dealings with Silvercrest or the Holt Foundation. 3 names stood out. A journalist who'd been investigating the foundation, dead in a hiking accident. A city councilman who'd questioned a development deal. Fatal DUI with no witnesses. An accountant from the foundation. Suicide by pills after a supposed nervous breakdown. 3 deaths. 3 people who'd gotten too close to the truth. I contacted the journalist's widow. She was bitter, suspicious, and eager to talk. Mark didn't hike, she said over coffee in a small cafe in Aurora. He had vertigo, couldn't even handle a stepladder. But suddenly he's hiking alone on a dangerous trail? She gave me Mark's notes, hidden in their garage for 3 years. He'd been close to exposing the money laundering, had traced payments to offshore accounts linked to a Mexican cartel. The Holt Foundation wasn't just stealing money, it was washing blood money. The accountant's story was even darker. His sister showed me his final emails, sent the day before his death. He'd discovered discrepancies, threatened to go to the IRS. Within 48 hours, he was dead. His reputation destroyed by leaked photos from a fabricated drug party. Tom never even drank, his sister said, tears streaming. They made him look like an addict, then killed him. I compiled everything into a massive encrypted file. The Miami scandal. Victor Reeves's death. The 3 suspicious deaths in Colorado. The money laundering. Anthony's hidden identity. Recorded conversations. Financial documents. It was enough to destroy not just Miranda, but the entire criminal network she'd built. But I knew if I went to local authorities, it would disappear. Miranda had spent years buying influence, placing allies in key positions. I needed someone she couldn't reach. That's when I contacted Marcus Chen. No, wait, his name was Marcus Shaw. An FBI agent from the Washington office who specialized in financial crimes. He had no connections to Denver, no obligations to local power brokers. When I sent him a sample of what I had, he was on a plane within 12 hours. This is RICO territory, he said when we met secretly at a hotel near the airport. Racketeering, money laundering, possibly murder for hire. How deep does this go? All the way to the top. And I can prove it. But Marcus warned me. If they suspect you've contacted us, you're in danger. Real danger. These people have killed before. I know, I said. That's why I'm going to give Miranda exactly what she wants. He looked at me like I was insane. I'm going to surrender, I explained. Make her think she's won, and when she's confident enough to be careless, when she finally admits everything because she thinks I'm beaten, that's when we take her down. Marcus didn't like it. Too dangerous, he said. Too many variables. But I knew Miranda's fatal flaw, her arrogance. She needed to win, needed to see her enemies grovel. And I was going to give her that satisfaction, right before I destroyed her. I called Miranda on a Thursday morning, my voice carefully calibrated to sound broken. I want to meet, I said. You win, I need the money. Her satisfaction was audible. I knew you were smart, Elena. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. The penthouse suite at the Ritz-Carlton. Come alone. The plan was precise. Marcus Shaw and his team would be monitoring from a room 2 floors down. I'd be wearing a wire, plus 2 hidden cameras, one in my purse, another disguised as a button. The goal was simple: get Miranda to admit to everything while she thought she was in complete control. I spent Friday afternoon with the FBI technical team, going over contingencies. They fitted me with state-of-the-art equipment so small even a pat-down wouldn't reveal it. Marcus made me memorize panic words that would trigger immediate intervention. If you feel threatened, say, "I need some air," he instructed. We'll be there in 30 seconds. At 7:45 p.m., I entered the Ritz-Carlton lobby. My hands were steady, but my heart was racing. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt eternal. When the doors opened, I stepped into luxury that mocked everything the Holt Foundation claimed to represent. Miranda was waiting in the living area, wearing a white silk blouse and designer jeans, looking relaxed, triumphant. Anthony was there too. I recognized him from the photos, though he'd aged poorly, his face bearing the permanent tension of a man always looking over his shoulder. Elena. Miranda gestured to a chair across from them. Please, sit. Would you like some wine? It's an excellent vintage. No, thank you. She smiled. Still playing the moral high ground? That's about to become very expensive. A third man emerged from the bedroom, muscle, clearly armed, standing by the door like a sentinel. My skin crawled, but I kept my expression neutral. You've caused me considerable inconvenience, Miranda continued, pouring herself wine with deliberate slowness. Do you have any idea how much it costs to manage a problem like you? The surveillance, the digital footprints, the persuasion of your colleagues? I'm sorry, I said, letting my voice crack. I didn't understand how things worked. No, you didn't. She leaned back, savoring the moment. You thought you were some kind of crusader. But crusaders need to understand their enemies. You never stood a chance. Anthony spoke for the first time, his voice gravelly. She needs to know what happens if she tries this again. Miranda held up a hand. She knows. Don't you? Elena. You've researched our history. You know about Victor Reeves. My stomach turned. But this was exactly what I needed. He was your partner in Miami. He was weak, Miranda said simply. When the FBI came sniffing around Hearts for Homes, he panicked. He was going to testify, throw us to the wolves to save himself. So you had him killed, she laughed. Actually laughed. Had him killed? So dramatic. We simply made sure he received the wrong medication. Allergic reactions happen all the time in federal custody. Tragic, really. Anthony shifted uncomfortably. Miranda. Oh, please, she's already signed her resignation. After tonight, she'll be gone. What's she going to do? Go to the police? With what evidence? Everything she had is gone. She looked at me directly. We cleaned your apartment yesterday. Your storage unit, too. Even your cloud accounts. Amazing what good hackers can do. They'd found my decoy stashes, exactly as I'd planned. The real evidence was safe with the FBI. But let's discuss the future, Miranda continued. You'll take $200,000 and disappear. Tonight, there's a flight to Costa Rica at midnight. You'll be on it. Costa Rica? Beautiful country. No extradition treaty, in case you get any stupid ideas. You'll have enough money to live comfortably, and we'll know exactly where you are. And if I refuse? The armed man by the door shifted slightly. Miranda's smile turned cold. Remember that journalist? Mark something? He refused. Thought his little investigation mattered. He died alone on a mountain, bones broken, body not found for weeks. Her voice was casual, discussing murder like a dinner recipe. The councilman who tried to block our development, his car mysteriously veered off the road, blood alcohol level through the roof, even though witnesses saw him drinking water all night. You killed them all. I protected my interests. Just like I eliminated that accountant who thought he could threaten me with the IRS. She stood, walking to the window, gazing at Denver's lights below. This city belongs to people like me, Elena. We built it, we run it, we decide who rises and who falls. And the foundation, the money laundering. She turned, amused. You did do your homework, yes. We clean money. Quite a lot of it, actually. Those cartels need their profits sanitized, and charitable foundations are perfect vehicles. Donations come in, consulting fees go out, everyone's happy. Except the families who need housing, collateral damage. Besides, we do give them something. Just enough for photos and press releases. Anthony stood abruptly. She's heard enough. Give her the money and get her out. But Miranda wasn't done. She was enjoying this, her complete victory. You know what your mistake was, Elena? You thought you were fighting for justice. But justice is just a story we tell poor people to keep them in line. The real world runs on power and money. And you have neither. She walked over to a briefcase on the coffee table, opening it to reveal stacks of cash. 200,000, your ticket to a new life. Or, she glanced at the armed man. We can end this differently. Your choice. I stood slowly, walking toward the briefcase, then stopped. I need to know one thing, I said. Why keep Anthony hidden all these years? Miranda's eyes flashed with irritation. Family is everything. He's my brother. He took the fall in Miami, disappeared with the money to protect me. I owed him $8 million worth. He kept his mouth shut. That's worth more than $8 million. I picked up the briefcase, feeling its weight. I'll take it. Smart girl. Miranda moved closer, her perfume suffocating. But remember, Elena, we'll be watching. One word to anyone, one attempt to resurface, and you'll join Mark on that mountain. Understood? Understood. She grabbed my wrist, her nails digging in. Say it like you mean it. I understand, Miranda. You win. Her grip loosened, she stepped back, satisfied. The car downstairs will take you to the airport. Your ticket is already purchased. Don't ever come back to Denver. I walked toward the door, briefcase in hand, the armed man stepping aside. As I reached for the handle, Miranda called out. Elena, this was personal for you, wasn't it? All that righteous anger? I turned back. Not anymore. Her laughter followed me into the hallway. She thought she'd broken me. In exactly 60 seconds, she'd learn how wrong she was. The elevator had barely closed when I heard the commotion above. FBI, nobody move! The penthouse erupted in chaos, shouts, crashing furniture, Miranda's shrill voice screaming about lawyers and rights. I stood in the elevator, briefcase still in hand, listening to the sweet sound of justice finally arriving. Marcus Shaw met me in the lobby, his expression a mix of relief and admiration. You did it. We got everything. Every word, I confirmed, handing him the briefcase. She confessed to murder, money laundering, the whole network. You took an insane risk going up there. I knew she couldn't resist. She needed to gloat, to see me broken. Her ego was always going to be her downfall. We walked outside where FBI vehicles had surrounded the building. Through the glass doors, I could see agents leading Miranda out in handcuffs. Her perfect composure finally shattered. She was screaming, threatening, bargaining, cycling through every manipulation tactic in her arsenal. Anthony followed, silent and defeated, knowing 15 years of hiding had just ended. The armed bodyguard was already in custody, and from what Marcus told me, he was eager to make a deal. He's got information about the murders, Marcus explained. Names, dates, methods. He wants witness protection in exchange for testimony. Over the next 72 hours, the FBI raids were surgical and comprehensive. They hit Silvercrest Holdings at dawn on Monday, seizing computers, documents, years of evidence. Richard Holt was arrested at his country club, pulled off the golf course in full view of Denver's elite. The foundation's offices were ransacked legally this time, Every fraudulent document cataloged, every fake charity traced. The web of shell companies collapsed like dominoes, each revelation leading to another arrest. By Wednesday, 17 people were in custody. The money laundering operation, which had cleaned over $200 million for various criminal organizations, was completely exposed. The FBI found offshore accounts, cryptocurrency wallets, real estate purchased with blood money. But the most satisfying moment came when they arrested Paula from HR and several other Silvercrest executives who'd been complicit. They'd known about the corruption, had helped silence whistleblowers, had chosen their comfortable salaries over basic human decency. I gave my deposition over 3 days, providing context for every document, explaining every connection. Sophia Reeves flew in from Portland, bringing her father's evidence, finally able to seek justice after 15 years. The media explosion was immediate and ruthless. Denver's charity queen exposed as killer ran on the front page of the Denver Post. CNN picked up the story, then the networks, then international outlets. The carefully constructed image Miranda had spent decades building disintegrated in hours. I watched from my hotel room, the FBI had me in protective custody, as former friends and associates rushed to distance themselves from the Holts. The country club revoked their membership. The museum boards held emergency meetings to remove Miranda's name from their walls. The charity galas she'd presided over were retroactively tainted. Marcus visited on the 4th day with news. Miranda's trying to make a deal. She wants to testify against the cartels in exchange for a reduced sentence. Will they take it? Not a chance. We have everything we need. She's looking at life without parole. The murder charges alone will bury her. He paused, then added, "You should know, 3 more victims' families have come forward. People who lost loved ones in suspicious circumstances after crossing the Holts. You didn't just expose a financial crime. Elena, you stopped a serial killer who happened to wear designer suits." The trial would take months to begin, years to complete. I would testify, relive every moment, face Miranda's lawyers who would try to destroy my credibility. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was that the truth was out. A week later, I stood on a hill overlooking Denver. The city sprawled below me in the morning light. My phone rang, an unknown number. "Ms. Ward? This is James Patterson from the Washington Post. We'd like to offer you a position on our investigative team. Your work on the Holt case was extraordinary." I smiled, thinking about Miranda in federal custody. No bail, her empire in ruins. She'd tried to exile me from Denver, threatened to destroy my career. Instead, she'd launched it into the stratosphere. "I'm interested," I said, "but I need to finish something here first." That afternoon, I visited the families who'd been promised housing assistance from the Holt Foundation. With the FBI's approval, I gave them contact information for legitimate charities and lawyers who could help them reclaim what they were owed from the seized assets. One elderly woman, Maria, grabbed my hands with tears in her eyes. "You fought for us when no one else would. You risked everything." "Someone had to," I replied. As I left, I passed the Silvercrest building one last time. Crime scene tape covered the entrance. Security guards turned away former employees. The monument to ambition that had once intimidated me now stood as a warning. Power built on lies always falls. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Miranda just got denied bail for the 5th time. She's claiming the whole thing is a setup, that you entrapped her." The judge laughed. I deleted the message and kept walking. Miranda Holt had thought she could buy silence, intimidate truth, and murder justice. She'd learned the hard way that some things weren't for sale, and some people couldn't be broken. 6 months later, I stood in a federal courthouse in downtown Denver, watching as Miranda Holt was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She'd aged a decade in those months, her designer clothes replaced by a plain black suit that couldn't hide her diminished frame. Her perfect hair now showed gray roots. But her eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, still burned with fury as she stared at me from the defendant's table. The judge read the charges one final time. Murder for hire, racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy. fraud. Each word was another nail in the coffin of her empire. Richard had already been sentenced to 30 years. Anthony got 25. The network of accomplices fell like dominoes, each receiving their measure of justice. When offered the chance to speak, Miranda stood, her voice still carrying that practiced authority. "I was a pillar of this community," she said. "I gave millions to charity, created jobs, supported the arts, and this is how I'm repaid? By believing the lies of a disgruntled employee?" The judge cut her off. "Mrs. Holt, the evidence against you includes recordings of you confessing to murder. Your claims of innocence insult this court and the families of your victims." As they led her away, Miranda turned to look at me one last time. I expected rage, maybe a threat. Instead, I saw something worse. A cold promise that if she ever got the chance, she'd finish what she started. But I wasn't afraid anymore. She had no power left. Outside the courthouse, the media waited in a massive cluster. Microphones thrust forward, questions shouted over each other. I'd prepared a statement, but when the moment came, I spoke from the heart. Miranda Holt believed money could buy anything: silence, loyalty, even life and death. She was wrong. The truth doesn't have a price tag. Justice can't be negotiated. And sometimes, one person standing up to corruption is all it takes to bring down an empire. I walked away from the cameras, from the story that had consumed my life for nearly a year. The Washington Post was waiting for me, a new chapter in a new city. But first, there was something I needed to do. I drove to the site of one of the affordable housing projects that should have been built with Holt Foundation money. It was just an empty lot, overgrown with weeds, surrounded by chain-link fence. But there was a new sign posted: "Future site of Reeves Community Housing, funded by recovered assets from the Holt Foundation case." Victor Reeves would have his name cleared, his legacy restored. The families who'd been cheated would finally get their homes. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. A car pulled up beside me. Sophia Reeves stepped out, looking at the sign with tears in her eyes. "They're breaking ground next month," she said. 200 units of affordable housing. My father would have been so proud. We stood there in silence, two women brought together by tragedy and triumph, watching the sun set over Denver. The city looked different now, less intimidating, more honest. The towers still reached for the sky. But I knew what lurked in some of those gleaming offices, and I knew that someone, somewhere, would always be willing to fight back. My phone buzzed with a text from Janet, my former colleague. "Just wanted you to know, we all knew you were telling the truth. We were just too scared to stand with you. I'm sorry." I deleted it without responding. Apologies couldn't undo their silence when I needed support most. But I understood their fear. Miranda had constructed a perfect system of intimidation. It had taken someone with nothing left to lose to tear it down. 3 days later, I packed my car and left Denver for good. As I drove past the Silver Crest building one final time, I saw construction crews. The building had been sold, would be converted into affordable housing, a fitting end for a monument to greed. The drive to Washington took 3 days. I stopped at small towns, ate at local diners, reminded myself that most of America existed far from the corruption of corporate boardrooms. A waitress in Kansas, hearing my story on the news, refused to let me pay for my meal. "You did what we all wish we could do," she said. "You fought back." Now, a year later, I work for the Washington Post, investigating corporate corruption nationwide. My desk is covered with files, tips from whistleblowers who saw what happened in Denver and found their courage. Miranda Holt's conviction had sent ripples through corporate America, a warning that no one was untouchable. Sometimes, late at night in my Georgetown apartment, I think about that moment in the Amber Room when Miranda pushed that envelope across the table. $50,000 to look the other way. It would have been so easy to take it, to choose comfort over conscience. But then I remember Maria's tears, Sophia's 15-year wait for justice, Mark the journalist who died for asking questions. I remember that evil thrives when good people stay silent. Last week, I received a letter from federal prison. Miranda's handwriting, still perfect despite her circumstances. You think you won, but you simply traded one master for another. The Washington Post owns you now, just as Silvercrest once did. The only difference is the illusion of righteousness. Enjoy your Pyrrhic victory. I framed the letter and hung it in my office, a reminder that she still doesn't understand. I was never fighting for glory or revenge. I was fighting for the truth. And the truth won. As I stand here now, looking out at the Washington Monument illuminated against the night sky, I know Miranda was wrong about one thing. I didn't destroy her empire. She built it on a foundation of lies. And I simply shone a light on it. The rest was inevitable. Gravity always wins in the end. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Elena's position? Let's discuss it together in the comments section.